So, what is your name and date of birth?
My name is John David Riegel. I was named after my two grandfathers, John Riegel and David Miller. And I was born on November 5th, 1924.
Very good. And where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Columbus, Ohio on Warren Avenue, but only until I was 1 year old. And then my family moved to Monroe, Michigan. And my father got a job up there with his brother-in-law, who married to my dad's sister, Jessie. And he was in the motion picture business back when it was silent. He put up a movie theater in Monroe, and my dad went up there and eventually worked with him and did for many, many years. So I grew up in Monroe. We lived, first of all, in town and on Riverview Avenue. I grew up there and went to Christensen School, which my sister had, and from kindergarten to the 5th grade. When I was in the 5th grade, my family bought a small farm outside of town, about a mile out, about 17 acres. So I grew up as a farm boy, but we were close enough to the city. I was involved as much in the city as I was in the farm, but it was interesting, good time. So I graduated from high school while living there and went into the military.
Can we cut real quick?
Yeah.
Just wanted to check in. We're speeding again.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about farm life and what you would do as far as?
Well, as I say, it was a small farm. A lot of our crops were grown on shares, so that we didn't do all the physical work. But my dad was big on animals. We had just about every kind of animal you could imagine. We had beef cattle, we had milk cattle, we had horses, we had sheep, pigs, chickens, of course, and all kinds. So I was big on animals. I loved them too. I loved to ride horses, of course, and so I got used to some farm work, and I enjoyed it. I helped out. Got sunburned a lot, but we had the equipment, and we had a nice big barn to store crops in. We grew mostly corn, wheat, alfalfa, some truck farms, vegetables, and so on. So I got pretty well adapted, but I guess I decided I wasn't going to be a farmer for life. They say I was active in the city as well. I was a Boy Scout and little sports, but I got a job during the Depression at Penny's as clerk. Well, started as a stock clerk and so on, at 25 cents an hour, which was very good to get at that time. That was the minimum wage, actually, compared now to what, we're talking $15. But gas was, 15 cents a gallon, and hamburger was a dime, and so on. So it helped. But the farm isn't there anymore. My dad sold it, and they moved to California. So always sorry to see it go. I think it's been replaced by a couple other industries and so on. But I still like Monroe. It was a great town to be born in, and lived in, and raised. Want me to tell you a little bit about Monroe?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would call it a patriotic town. For one thing, it was the home of George Armstrong Custer. So there's still some Custers around there. I was born not too much after the end of World War I, 6 years, and so there was always something going on. We had a big American Legion with their silver helmets and drum and bugle corps. A lot of parades on about every occasion. I can remember a carriage with some Civil War veterans. There were still some that were around, And so I grew up, military, patriotic, flag. My dad was very patriotic. He served in World War I in Toledo. He never got overseas. He was one of the unfortunate who contracted the plague, which was a terrible thing worldwide at that time. Millions were killed, died because of it. But he survived, but he did have it, and that kind of. But he thought of a lot of his country. He always had flags and everything. So I was that way, and when World War II came along, I was ready to participate. I'm straying off subject, aren't I?
That's all right. We'll get you back on track.
You asked me about farming, and I liked the farming, and I got the experience at it. I did some. We did mowing and raking and plowing and harvesting, and it was good. Raising the animals was fun. As I say, I like the horses. We had a mare, and we had two foals by her, and it was fun as I think back upon it.
Good. You said you got a job during the Depression. How old were you at the time when
14.
you started? Do you mind answering when I got the job, when I started working? I was.
No, sure. Well, I guess I was looking for some income allowance and so on, and get to my mother and father. What can we do? So my dad in the next couple of days said, John, you go down to Penny's, and I got a job for you. The manager lived about 4 houses down, CC now, and so I went down, and sure enough, just a kid, 14. I had a Model A Roadster by then. My dad bought my sister and me to go to school, so I could go to work, and I worked after school and Saturdays and summers, and so on. Got along, a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. As I say, I did mostly stock work, but then I gradually started clerking in his men department, children's department, and I was there quite a while and made quite an experience.
Okay. Do you remember any hardships or during the Depression that your family had to endure? Is there?
I think we were very fortunate. My dad never missed a paycheck. It wasn't a big paycheck, and he gave my mother $5 a week for groceries. Bread and hamburgers. So she had to skimp, and we did, but we always ate. We never starved. But we'd go by these soup lines where men lined up and out of work, and it was bad. We didn't have a lot, but once in a while we get a nickel for an ice cream cone, double dip. And I got into the movies free, of course, so that couldn't beat that. I had my quarter an hour, and got to spend that, mostly at my lunches and so on. But we were very fortunate. We had a home to live in, and my dad even had saved enough to buy the little farm. Of course, things were, like a home with $3,000 was pretty good, nice home, good part of town, and and it's kind of hard as you get older not to think back, and kind of relate to what things were then and now. What was that? I got new tires the other day at Costco. I just need them, and it was $535. And I told the guy, I said, I can remember. I'm old enough to remember when you could buy a car for that, and it's true. My dad paid $75 for my Model A Roadster, and I forget what. Well, he got a new DeSoto in 41, which was good timing for 800. So, and first shock of $10,000 cars and clothing was like $1.98 you could get a shirt, $1.49 for the better quality, and socks quarter. Of course, the kids, you bring up that old stuff. Say, "Oh yeah, Grandpa, what it was like back in the old days." And that's a long time ago.
Well, they'll be telling the same stories.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad I can still tell them.
Yeah.
And they can laugh if they want to, but to me, they were important days. I needed second.
Yeah.
When I was 12,
Oh, okay.
and pretty active. I went up through the ranks, and I did get to be an Eagle Scout, and sort of a junior assistant scoutmaster, and had some good experiences.
Good.
Yeah.
It sounds like you worked a lot during your childhood, whether it's on
I
the
did.
farm.
I was pretty busy. I did get a chance once in a while. We lived on Monroe's on Lake Erie, so we could get out there and at the beaches and so on. But I was generally busy, which I guess was good.
Kept you out of trouble?
Some of the time, well, most of the time, yeah. I probably spent too much time in the theaters watching movies, but I guess Uncle Joe said, "Well, that didn't hurt you and your sister."
You remember what some of your favorite movies were back then?
Oh gosh, there were a lot of big ones, like Gone with the Wind, of course. I remember Midsummer Night's Dream. It happened on something. It was Clark Gable and there's so many. There were a lot of good ones. A lot of westerns, of course. Tom Mix and Gene Autry and Hoot Gibson and doggone, I need a second again.
Yeah.
I don't know what my nose is deciding to. But Saturdays at the movies were, for the kids was a dime, and the popcorn was a nickel. And it usually had a double feature, a couple of cowboy movies, and maybe a different other one. A serial, Buck Rogers, and of course, you'd have to come back the next week because he'd always be a little life-endangering situation at the end. And you have to come back and see how he got out of it. And it'd be cartoons, the cat and the Mickey Mouse and all those. And it was a fun day. And they had dish day, and they had floor shows, had magicians. I remember I got to go up twice and get a couple of rabbits to help because I sat down in front. I think they even had a fan dancer once. Those things impress you, different. But it was, I remember when Talkies came in, I was still pretty young. And Al Jolson and a lot of, I could remember a lot if it took time to think about them. But
They said Talkies. What are Talkies?
Talkies came in, about 1930. Before that, my cousin played the organ down to the pit for the horse racing and all that stuff, and loved music and all that. She played the organ, and it was quite a thing when Talkies came in.
So the Talkies, is that when they had audio? Is that the end of the silent movie, or can you explain what the Talkies, what it actually?
Well, that was when the Talkies came into the feature picture. Now it might have started out kind of silent, but then they didn't hear. Oh, here comes the characters, the voices, and they were talking. You didn't have to guess what they were saying and read the script down at the bottom, and it further developed, more and more to in the 30s. It was very very good talkies. You can still find some on the cable, of course. The silent ones, they're still in there. Greta
Great.
Garbo. I can't remember. Of course, Mickey Rooney started out early, and Judy Garland.
Great.
Yeah, I still watch some of them.
Yeah, great. And besides going to the theater, and what else was there that you did for fun? With you have friends?
Well, I
that
said
you
the
got-
Boy Scouts. I
Yeah?
quite a bit of time there. Went to camp a couple in the summer, and we even got to go up to Ann Arbor and usher at a football game between Michigan and Michigan State. But it worked on advancement and merit badges, and being on the farm helped because I got a lot of merit badges for farm work and animal husbandry and that type of thing. And said worked in the farm, and I had to do my chores to do on the farm. I had to feed the horses and the animals, and clean out the stalls, and gather the eggs and feed the chickens. And so I was quite active.
I know Michigan. They're pretty serious about their football up there. Were you guys avid Michigan fans, or?
Well, I wasn't so much at those days. Of course, I graduated from there, so I have been since. I even got to meet Tom Harmon. We were Tiger fans, Detroit Tigers. I even got to see a game my uncle took me to.
You want to tell me about that experience a bit?
Well, it was in Detroit, of course, and we were about 35 miles away. And so we didn't get up there very often. But my uncle was a doctor, Myron Miller. He had a son, David. So he took us up to Detroit to see a game. And I remember Schoolboy Rowe and Goose Goslin and Mickey Cochran and Gehringer. And it was quite a crew, history of it. I have a book on them. Certainly enjoyable. One funny thing. As we were going up there was a park in Detroit there, and a bunch of men just sitting around doing nothing. I said, Uncle, why aren't those guys out there working? Well, they didn't have jobs, and they would like to have been working. So you didn't appreciate everything. Understand that I was probably 8 or 9, 10, somewhere in there. Just didn't appreciate it. But I grew to enjoy the Tigers. I got quite a few games up there, but I got to be a fan of the Tigers and the Lions and the Red Wings, and got up to some boxing matches in Detroit. We got up there quite a bit. State fairs. Yeah.
Did you play any sports growing up?
Well, of course, out at South Meadow Townside, which was that little 4-room school I went to, we did some things. They had some joint activities with other schools. We did shot put and running and long jump and pole. Tried different things. So that was my early days. When I went to high school, I went out for football in the 9th grade. And I played some. Wasn't great. I was pretty small. I weighed 120 pounds, but you played against other small kids. But that ended my football career, because then I went to work the following summer, and that was it. And I regret that.
Was that before helmets were implemented?
We had a nice leather helmet that you could fold up and put in your pocket. Yeah, I think you can still find some in the fame, the Hall of Fame games and so on. They were just leather straps, down there, and a lot of guys didn't have teeth, and we had some pads and shoulder, but nothing like today.
Do you remember what position you were playing?
I was supposed to be an end, a short end. Which truly was on an end, generally, but blocking and tackling.
Very good. When you were younger, did you have a mentor, or was there somebody who really influenced you too?
Well, I did. My uncle was one I did. He was the Dr. Uncle Martin. I did admire him, and he was good to me and gave me a golf club, and he was very good. I remember one of my teachers. I remember several, but one of them outstanding was my chemistry and physics. Fielding Tambling was his name, and great. He was such a great guy. He was the he was a tennis coach, and maybe something else too. But he was he had a lot of good sayings, and he kind of. One of them I remember was, he says, "Final exams didn't bother me." He said I studied hard all year or won all the term, and at the night before the finals I went to the movies or something. That was a good lesson. A good, clean guy. But I had some others, but scout leaders.
What are some of the things you learned in Boy Scouts?
Oh, the usual tenderfoot things about the law and the pledge and be prepared. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law. And so those are ingrained in you so much. And how to tie knots and cook out and build shelters and some history, government. I guess a lot of things. Trying to think of anything physical. Yeah. I tell you one thing, one story about in scouting that comes back to me, and whether you want to keep it in or not. But I went to scout camp my first year, and 12, and new to scouting. So one of the things they had as a test was they row you out to a pledge or what do I want to say? The floating out there. What do I want to say?
Like a dock?
Well, it was a dock, like a
Or a
dock.
buoy,
What do
or-
you call it?
Something that you'd physically be able to stand
physically
on?
out there.
Um,
And that's a word escape. I'll think of it. But anyway, it was a platform, floating out there, and so they take you out there and they'd say, okay, this is a test to see if you can swim, so we can let you go out in boats and so on. So he said, you jump in at this end of the dock and you go swim to the other end, and well, I had never learned to swim. Lake Erie is so shallow, I wade out there and flap around, but I've never been in a pool. I've been in little creeks and so on, but never swam, so I didn't know how to swim. So I got in there and jumped in, and I tried to swim, paddle myself away to the other end, and I wasn't making any progress. So they finally fished me out. He said, lay down there and rest a little bit, and we'll give you another try. So I did. Well, what am I going to do? Well, I prayed. I prayed to God. I said, God, would you please help me and pass this test? And I got up and jumped in, and sure enough, I swam to the other end. I'm probably not pretty, but I did pass the test. But I thank God for that, and he, of course, played a big, important part of my life all the time, from the beginning. So, so that was one experience. But I had several other good experiences there. Yeah, it's a nice camp. Now it's been developed. The lake, had a nice lake, and it's been developed for housing and cottages. So, yeah. My sister, she was a Girl Scout, and she went there too. I didn't tell you much about my sister. Did I?
No, let's hear about her.
Yeah, Donna Jean. She was about 3.5 years. She still is 3.5 years older than me. She was born in 1921 in May. She still lives in. She's now in East Lansing, Michigan, in a retirement home, 94, and we call about once a week. There were years when we got together. She's in that picture of the group. Little brother, big sister wasn't the ideal situation when you're growing up. You always think you're getting bossed and run around, and so on. So, but we did get along well. We gradually, more and more, developed a relationship, and certainly have since. We're doing fine, but she's a good woman. She had one son. That was all she could have. She graduated from Michigan Normal College, or Eastern Michigan now, Ypsilanti, Michigan. Home ec teacher, and married Dick Burnett, and tied to Michigan State, his school and her son's school. So she's been a follower of Michigan State sports, big on basketball and hockey. So she's a good sister.
Great. I can imagine the winters were pretty.
I'm sorry?
I said I could imagine the winters were pretty brutal in Michigan.
They were, I guess, but we didn't. We expected it. We said, "Oh, November, snow. We'll get out and enjoy it. Make snowballs, and so we're in lower Michigan. It wasn't as bad as some parts of it, I guess. Did get cold, get a bit snowy, ice, like you froze over. But we go ice skating down on River Raisin. And the car would freeze up and all that. It was cold, but we bundled up for it. We had earmuffs and gloves and planned for it. So I didn't. I didn't hate it or anything like that. It's all right. And of course, I wouldn't be able to stand it now for six months of winter or 3 months of cold weather. But at the time, it didn't bother me.
Do you remember any stories? Maybe some mischief that you got into as a youngster?
Oh, I forget those.
Yeah.
I did. I was not a perfect boy, but believe me. I don't know what all I did, but crazy things. I think my dad got me a BB gun. Talking about asking for trouble, and I think I shot the paper boy in the back once, and I got trouble for that. And Halloween evening, we go out and soap windows. That was the thing to do, you take bar soap, go over the window, ring the doorbell and run. Not a bad thing. But my dad used to tell me some things they did was like finding a buggy, taking it apart and putting it on top of a shed or somewhere, But yeah, I did some mischief. What else did I do mischief? It seemed like I never got away with anything. If I did something wrong, there was somebody to tell my dad about it. This is certainly a small thing, but we were kind of at the end of the town, our street, another block, and off into the country club and different, just country. So we'd wander out down there just to get into trouble. And there was this one little creek running along. It was fun, a little water, well, not much. And so we set up some rock, made a little dam, for it. And, dug fun, but it just let it come. Well, when I got home, after I was home, my dad said, I got a call. Somebody saw you damming up their creek, and it overflowed. Who saw that? I was there 5 minutes, and nobody said anything then. So that kind of the story of my life. And if I did something not horrible, but wrong. I remember some woman called my dad and said, "Your son driving to school goes around on 2 wheels." So anyway, paid to behave.
And you would drive yourself to work at 14? You started driving?
I got my license at 14. I got a special privilege because I lived on the farm, on the country. I was allowed to get a license, yeah.
Wow.
And go to work and pay Social Security. Yeah, I signed up for Social Security at that time.
How many hours a week would you work?
Well, I have to guess now. I don't know. It was probably maybe 10, 15. Saturday, I don't know. I worked pretty good on Saturday. Maybe if I worked 20, it'd be $5. I really saved up $100 or so just working there. And then in summers I worked some more. Got along good with everybody.
And how many years were you working at Penny's for? You remember?
Well, I worked all through the 10th, 11th, 12th grades, and then a bit in the summer. Before I went off to college in the fall of '42 to Ypsilanti, where my sister was going. So up until then, and then I got a job at Ypsilanti. Well, that was later. That was after. Later, I didn't have a job then. I was having fun. I was being a college boy. I didn't care too much about the classes. I did go, but I wasn't studying very hard, and it was a real college time. It was. I had the green beanie for freshmen, and girls had to be in by 10, and had a bad football team. Excuse me a second. Yeah, I was thinking while living in town in Monroe and Riverview there, up to the 5th grade, a lot of experiences for a young kid, And I remember we had a milkman, Mr. Petey, and he had his wagon and a horse pulling the wagon, and the horse would stop at a house. He'd put the milk out. Of course, in the winter it would freeze up, raise a cap on it. That was the cream. And then the horse would move and keep going. He had a dairy, and we had a iceman. We had an ice box, and so the iceman would come and park his truck and deliver. You put up a sign in the window, 25, 50, whatever you wanted, or nothing. And so he'd have his shield and carry it in. We'd get up in the wagon, get a little sliver of ice, especially in the summer, So we do that. I don't think he'd mind. And we had a wagon with a grocery wagon, and pulling again with a horse. So horses were common. Electric cars with old ladies in them were common, and so those are some of the things that come to my mind as I remember my misspent childhood. Well, you ask what a mischief I got. I got into some, I'm sure. But anyway,
Yeah.
what's the next question?
Let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about your high school career.
High school. Okay, well,
Is it Michigan still?
pardon?
You went to school in Michigan still?
Yes, Monroe, Michigan. Yes. Yeah, that was when we lived out in the country. We went to the local elementary school, which I mentioned was a four-room up to the 8th grade. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and had 4 teachers, and it was interesting, fun. I think I showed you a picture there of that one of the classes, and 7th, 8th grade. Variety of students, a lot of farm boys and roughnecks and girls, variety of girls, and some of them are very smart, and some went on to high school and some didn't. I think you had to go through the 8th grade or a certain age legally in school. So when I went to high school, 9th grade, and all new and big time, swimming pool, basketball, and all that stuff, athletics, gym, classes, different classes around English and math and so on. So it was different. Met my future wife there the first year. Didn't know it, didn't realize it, but she was in the 8th grade, and I remember meeting her then, but didn't develop anything for a year or two. I got along pretty well in high school. I wasn't an A student. Again, I worked and went to the movies more than I studied, I'm afraid, so I could have been a better student. I did all right when I studied, but if I didn't study, I would shock my Latin teacher when I pass a test and get an A all right. She'd wonder what I was pulling. All right, I studied. I was in some plays. I was in the Thalian Club, which was acting. Enjoyed that. I had fun. I got to lead the science fair within an assembly. Mr. Tamley selected me, and we got to put out a little show of physical things, the light bulb and all that. So I got to MC that. I MC'd a prom because I couldn't dance in the 9th grade. I didn't know how to dance. So I was going to take a girl, but what's the point, So I did MC. So I kind of got into speaking and roles and that kind of stuff. I don't know why. I guess because I was with the theater. After that, my sports was limited. I was sorry. Because I like sports. I tried tennis, but couldn't work that in too well. In fact, I remember one match I was trying out. Gee, this young kid beat me like nothing. I remember what it looked like, and I remember that. I probably could come up with his name. I thought, gee, if I can't beat him, I should give up, Well, later on, he became state champion in high school. So he was good. So I didn't felt so bad. What else? Anything else happened? Graduated in 42. On schedule.
Cool. You want to talk about meeting your future wife?
Well, that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I can still see it. I really can. I can picture. Joe Nisley said, "I want you to meet somebody." So I said, "Oh, okay." So we took down the first floor, outside the chemistry lab, and out there on the first floor. And she was standing by her locker. That's where her locker was. And Joe said, I want you to meet Joanne Absalom. Oh, hi, John. Well, I was a new ninth grader. She was a young 8th grader. So I thought, oh, well, nice. And I remember she looked good. She was good looking. But nothing developed at that time. But it was supposed to be, I guess. So we dated a lot in high school. We weren't monogamous. What do I want to say? We each had our dates. And weren't until I don't remember when it got more serious. I guess when I first Christmas home, when I was in the service, I went with her and we met and had a good time. But nothing solid then. Later on, when I got my wings, I got a leave to go home. So I did that, and we got together and we did a lot of activities together. We went to dances, had a lot of good times. When we had to see Glenn Miller a couple times, and an outdoor dance hall in Detroit and one in Toledo. So we did some good things together, but I would consider it serious at that point. And then in December of '44, I never missed a Christmas. You know that? They're coming home. The fate was just with me. I did. Somehow. And it was not always easy. When I was in Pasco, Washington, getting a train home and back was a mess. Trains were a mess. But also, Richland in Washington, where they were developing the atomic bomb. They were building it up, and all the people, just filling. I think I slept either in a smoking room or on a suitcase, because it was just that crowd. So anyway, that was a struggle, and no change of clothes and everything. So got home, and I did that. Got a little easier when I was an officer. But in '44, I went home and I asked her to marry me. So it was funny. Again, you're led in certain ways. When we got the notice that we had some time off, one of my good friends was going to get married up in New Jersey, and he invited me to come to the wedding. So I had a choice of going to his wedding and seeing a nurse that I knew, and other things to do that, or go home. And Lord blessed me, he said go home. So I did, and I asked her if she'd marry, and she said yes. I got her a ring, we were engaged. And so that got serious then, and ever since. Yeah. Then there's more to the story.
Great. We can revisit that if...
You want me to go on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was in New Bern, North Carolina, stationed there. We pretty well winding up our training in the PBJ and getting ready to go somewhere. So my mother and sister decided to bring Joanne down to see me before I shipped out. Nothing else planned, and so they were scheduled about a week earlier, and I got a note on my bunk that said, "Report to headquarters, you're shipping out." So that was going to cancel everything, and so I got over to headquarters and ready for my orders. Said, "Forget it, it's been canceled." The fate? No, I think that was planned. And so so they're coming down. And my buddies said, "Oh, why don't you marry?" "Oh, no, I get married now." And, "Oh, yes, you are." they picked me up and carried me over to the county courthouse and said, "You give him a license." So I got a license. And I asked her, okay. So I had 3 days and we got married. Went to Methodist Church, and I had to see the captains. So I had to get to 3 days. Okay, all right. Okay. The Marines were never that jovial, especially if they outranked you. So we did. We stayed at Queen Anne Hotel, which later burned down, and we're there. She stayed a little while longer, and we had a good time. She went home by herself. For a girl who had never been out of Michigan and Ohio and never gone anywhere without her family, she was on her own and went home by herself and all that. Got there. So bless her heart. And then I got my orders to go out to San Diego, base Miramar, and to get ready. So I did, and I got out there, and I wasn't ready to do anything yet. So she decided to come out all by herself. She got on the chief, and decided to come out. And again, bless her heart, she pretty good for a homebody. And she met a woman, Mrs. Matchkey. You remember that? See, I remember some things. And the train. And they got friends. So she got out, and we got a room at the U.S. Grant, which was like pulling teeth. Well, it was full of sailors and Army, and that town was just full. I'm ranting away, but let me go on. But we got a room at the U.S. Grant. I was a limit of 3 days, I think it was, you could stay, and then you had to leave. So we stayed the 3 days. We checked out. I went back and checked in again. 3 days. Anyway, we thought we need a place to stay. And, strange things. I was looking for a place, and I'll think about this. But anyway, she decided to call Mrs. Matchkey, see if she had. Yeah, I got a room you can have. Talk about plans in life, and so we had that for the time I was there, and got notice to ship out. And she was there a little while longer, but then she went back, and I shipped. I went on a ship. I can't think of it. Well, anyway.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your life leading up to joining the military. When did you join? And
okay. Well, on December 7th, 41, I was 17 years old, and I was a senior in high school, so I couldn't do anything then. The national, I got a little bit of military taste. The National Guard had shipped out, of course, so they formed what they call the Michigan State Guard. Bunch of civilian guys, kids and old men, and World War I veterans and so on, go out and drill. They need khaki uniforms and old rifles and practice troop. And so I was in that for a while until I went to college. But let's see what else happened. In 42, I graduated. I was still 17, and we had a war bond rally or whatever at the Navarre Field, which is an athletic field. Big, different things there, selling bonds, and I don't remember what all, but recruiters and so on. So I stopped at this, I guess I got stopped. I was going by this Navy setup, an officer in his whites, and they had a mock-up cockpit, upper level, and they were off offering, rides in it. So the officer stops me and he says, "Hey, you want to take a ride in the auto?" "Oh, sure." So I got up and got in, strapped in, and the thing started spinning, revolving. And finally I got out, and I wasn't dizzy, woozy. He thought, "That's my man." So he got my name and address and everything. Wanted me to join the Navy Aviation Cadet Program, the V5 program. Oh, I was 17, so I couldn't assign. He came out to the farm and talked to my dad, and my dad turned him off. He said, he wasn't going for this now, and I don't know what led to, but whether my mother went for it or I guess I pleaded. But anyway, the officer talked him into it, and he signed, he proved it. I guess it was better than that being drafted. So when I was 18 in November, I went to Detroit and got sworn in as an aviation cadet, and waiting orders to go somewhere where they had room. That was one of the problems then, is finding space for everybody to move around at the right time. And I don't know whether they were really anticipating the end of it or what. They probably not in 42 or 3, but anyway, we had won some battles. So in November 5th, then I was sworn in, and then they finally called me in March. Meanwhile, I was in college. I was still continuing. And the term was over, and I got a notice to come to Detroit to ship out. So a group of us from Michigan and Ohio got together at the Cadillac Hotel and got on a train headed for Helena, Montana. And again, I wasn't too comfortable or experienced in being out of town or out away from home anyway. So it was kind of lonesome. So we went on, I don't know how many days it took us to get to Helena, Montana. But that's how I got started.
Great. Let's see here. So you had already met your wife before joining the military, but you hadn't been.
She wasn't my wife.
So you guys weren't.
No, we were going together, dating, but she was dating also.
Okay.
I had a competition.
Okay. Yeah.
But guess who won?
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell me a bit about your boot camp experience?
Well, the boot camp I had was St. Mary's College in California. So it was kind of a deluxe boot camp. It was pre-flight school, they called it, and a lot of athletics, about everything, football, soccer, running, a lot of obstacle course, training, how to throw a hand grenade, a lot of classwork on aviation, engines, navigation, what made a plane fly. So it was schooling and conditioning, but we were in uniforms. We got to go to San Francisco on the weekends, or Berkeley, and that was about 3 months. Had a nice meeting hall and entertainment. So you can't really call it a boot camp, but it was our deluxe boot camp, I guess.
And you spent how long did you spend there? You said 3 months.
3 months at St. Mary's, yes.
And then after that, where did you go?
Pasco, Washington. That's where we learned to fly the Yellow Perils, the biplanes, Stinson, and which that was the most fun flying that I'd ever had. Acrobatics and formation, and open cockpit, goggles, really old aviation, and so that was fun. Pasco was interesting. Little town. Now, as I say, that atomic bomb location was very close to us, and they advised you not to fly over it. Apparently, one guy did, and he got some bullet holes in his wings. That was in flight-free zone. But that was good introduction. We had Helen and I passed over that. It was a boys' college, Catholic college. Of course, there were no boys because they were all in the service. So I think they sent a group out to train there, kind of protect the school and allow it to continue, fund it, and because they had no other way of income. And so we were the second class and next to the last V5. And so we flew out at the airport in light planes, Caracas, and learned about flying and so on. And we were there 4 months, I think, because they didn't have a place for us at St. Mary's. But Pasco was there 3 months, and we went to Corpus Christi, Texas, and went up, took a step up in the airplane. SNVs, the metal monoplane, and got some good training there. Night flying, our first night flying, which was a bit scary. The instructor take you to the airport, take you around once, and says, "Okay, it's yours." So he gets out, and you take it up, go around, and of course the exhaust, all that flame is coming out those exhausts, and so it was a bit scary at first. Night flying got to become normal, but a little breaking in time. So Corpus was good. That was about 6 months.
So how long was your training before you actually got into the plane and the cockpit?
The operational one, the PBJ. Well, the training was from March of '43 until I got my commission in June of '44. That's when I just went from the Navy to the Marine Corps by choice. And then we went to North Carolina. We'd flown in some small twin engine, just to get used to that. And then we went to Edenton, North Carolina, flew again in that small plane to get acquainted with the airport and our area. Then we got into the PBJ. So that was about a month after that. That was about July of '44 or somewhere like that.
You remember the first time you flew?
Flew in anything?
Well, where you were at the controls?
Well, the light planes, I can remember that. That was, you had an instructor. You make sure you put your carburetor heater on before you land. You fought the wind because they had a lot of crosswind. It was a commercial airport that wasn't very active. But a lot of crosswind, so you had to learn to, slide into the bird. So I can remember some of that. And we did spins, stalls, did spins, and so that was not too difficult. Learned to land, pick out a landing in case you engine went out. Then we went to when we went to Pasco, those Yellow Perils, Stinsons. I forget how many hours we had of training, of dual. Finally, the day came for a solo, and I was ready. I thought, yeah, didn't have any problem. We had good landing, good area to fly in, and got solo time to go out and work on our acrobatics and whatever. Went to Beeville, Texas, then for instruments. We had to learn to fly by, blind by instruments, and did that. We learned to use a sextant for the wind, for the stars, traverse our navigation. We had catalogs, books with maps of the stars and where they'd be at a certain time, So we'd project our two lines, across or maybe three, to look where we are and then where we're going and what speed and there. No, that was good. Even had a link trainer to simulate that. But so there's a lot to it. Radio navigation. So I thought, I have to tell you though, I was when I left Edenton, went to Cherry Point for a little while, then to San Diego to Miramar, and all this time I wasn't flying. We rode some planes to get our flight pay. But so we got, by the time we got over to Amaru, which was our island, excuse me, I hadn't flown probably 6 months, 6 or 7 months, I guess. So I was pretty rusty. And the first thing they do is say, okay, you're going to take a flight test. So some captain or something else. You go out, get a plane and go through the routine and everything. And it's a flight to see, a test to see if you're able to be a pilot. And so I was a little nervous, but new field and not a new plane, but fortunately no. And the runway was sitting on top of a ledge, this little island, and at the end of the runway where you come in is a big cliff. It's a sheer drop off, and so you didn't undershoot, that was for sure. And so he said, okay, take it up. So I did. I took it around, went up. Yeah, okay, circle the field. Now I'll go in for a landing. And so I did, and landed. And I would say it was probably the best flight I ever flew in my life. Praise the Lord. No kidding. I thought it was very good. I even under the tail you have a bumper, a metal projectile, and it's nice if you can just skim that, and squeal the tires. And I did. I squealed the tires, just touched that little thing. Came in and said, okay, park it. So, you're right. Yeah, so that was fun. And but then I got to fly in squadrons, and I was in 443. And our CO was a major, and he later became a 4-star general.
Can you explain the significance of what a 4-star general is? And
the Marine Corps? Well, it's the same as the Army. It's equal to an admiral in the Navy, but a 4-star general is the top rank. Well, let's see, they had 5-star in the Marine Corps. They must have. I don't remember. Yeah, who was a 5-star? I don't know. Anyway, 4-star is normally the top rank. In the war, they had MacArthur and Eisenhower and a few others that they put in as 5-star temporarily. So you go through the ranks of brigadier general and major general, lieutenant general, and then full general, the 4-star. And the new chairman of the chief of staffs is a 4-star Marine general. So he's had one before. But the commandant is normally 4-star. But it's a good rank.
Better swap.
Hmm?
Should do a better swap.
Okay. We're just going to take a quick second to change.
Good flight that I made, which just surprised me.
That was the first one in a long time.
Oh yeah, but I had the plane pretty well down. I had done some. I'd even be getting a little cocky about it, and so I knew how to fly it. It was, you become sort of a part of the plane. You got to be able to feel like it. You can control it, and I did.
So about the aerobatics or acrobatics,
Well, that was when the biplanes is when we did that, and that was learned about all of them, loops and Immelmans and slow rolls and fast rolls and
were those evasive maneuvers, or what was the purpose?
They were just aerobatics, and the spins and stalls, and it kind of gives you a feel of what you can do with the plane, and the different conditions, and it's just enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. It's the best part of flying.
And you mentioned you chose to transfer from the Navy to Marines.
Right.
Can you talk about why that was?
Well, I don't have a real solid reason, to tell you the truth. There were several of us. There were kind of a group that had been together. We said, they said, well, who wants to go in the Marine Corps? You had a choice. And we got the message that we were going to fly A-20s, which is a interesting 2-engine plane, single pilot, does strafing and bombing, and said, "Oh, that sounds good. We'd like to do that." So we signed up. We volunteered, and I don't know, probably maybe 10, 12, maybe more. I don't know, 15. Some chose to stay in the Navy. So why I did, who knows? It was a impulse at the time, but I'm glad I did. Mm-hmm. Marines have been kind of fun, interesting since then. Something to brag about, The captain that gave us our wings and swore us in said, "Oh, you're a Marines, be cocky." Well, that's what irritates a lot of Navy guys and Army guys, is you're cocky. But there's a certain amount of spirit, decor, and aggressiveness. So one thing about the Marines, they impressed on us that we were first a Marine, second a pilot. So they made sure that we had some training in other things than filing. So we went up to Camp Pendleton and had some experience there, and obstacles and marching and whatever all we were there for. Even went through their live fire night obstacle course, and got us up at 4 or 5 in the morning to repulse a landing, and I don't know, whatever. They just tried to toughen us up and say, not that we were going to spend much time at it, but if the need be.
And how many years were you with the Navy before joining the Marines?
Well, it's from actually for my swearing in November of. Well, active duty though is when it counted. That was March of '43 until June of '44. It's the Navy. Gets a little confusing, but that's where you got your flight training, was in the Navy. And it's actually when I went in, I had no idea that'd be anything but the Navy. I didn't have any idea about the Marine Corps. That came later.
Now, rewinding a bit, do you remember when Pearl Harbor happened and where you were?
Oh yeah, very vividly.
You mind?
Vividly, December 7th, 41. I went to church. I sometimes went by myself, and I got to drive my dad's new DeSoto. So I went to church in the morning, and I was driving around. I was going to make the most of having it, And I had the radio on. Had a radio in the car. That was unusual. I knew something new. And they started talking about Pearl Harbor, the bombing and everything. Oh my gosh. So I went down to our hangout, the pool hall, and a bunch of guys came there to talk about it. And oh boy, and the guy that owns it said, oh boy, there's going to be shortages and everything, and trying to guess what was going to be happening. So I stayed there for a while. Then I went home, and I thought, well, the folks all know about it, and nobody knew about it. Nobody had heard it. And I said, Pearl Harbor's been bombed. No. So we turned the radio on, got Roosevelt and whoever else talking about it. So, but yeah, I remember that day like I was behind the wheel. Can't forget it.
Because that was sort of the starting point for the U.S. their involvement in World War II.
Well, yeah, they were really involved, but as a supplier. We were gearing up for ammunition, guns, and tanks, and we were supplying some to England. I don't know what else was still there. France, I don't know. France is still existing. Russia. Eventually, we were supplying all Russia and England and Canada, of course, and so we were talking about it. There was a lot of opposition to being in it, like Lindbergh. He was more in favor of us supporting Germany than he was of England. He thought Germany was going to be winning, and they were pretty strong. But there was the black shirts. There was, German national. There are people who had been from Germany that were against our supporting England. So it wasn't a uniform 100% movement. But most people, of course, didn't like Hitler, and we had a lot of anti-Hitler movies and propaganda. I think we were trying to prepare the people, but it was a little difficult for Roosevelt because we had so much opposition to it. But when Pearl Harbor, of course, changed all that, and it changed for everybody, lost their lives, and destruction, surprise, sneak attack, and all that. So that triggered the involvement, the declaring of war on Japan, and then Germany declared war on us, and I think it saved England. I think without us, eventually, of course, Hitler pulled a big blunder by making a second front in Russia. At one time they had been allies, but he decided after Poland, I guess that he would defeat Russia, and so it really split his forces. And otherwise, I think he would have moved into England eventually with a fight, but it wasn't supposed to be though. See, that was all planned. Without that, we wouldn't have won. But yeah, I was, of course, I was all enthused about it, and what was I going to do or be? They say I had military mind really in high school. I was thinking of West Point or Annapolis, maybe. But the war changed that.
So would you say there was a good sense of patriotism in our country at that time?
Oh yeah, it was. It was a big. Yeah, anybody now that was anti was it was probably hiding because they, yeah, I would say 95% or 99% of American people were patriotic and ready to support the war effort, and did. Guys signed up, and there were drafts, of course, and women went to work. The old guys worked in the factories, so changed the world. But it was a devastating war, though, to think what went into it, and the lives lost. Of course, you know, Hitler was such a madman, killing the Jews and conquest, and he did organize Germany. There's no doubt about that. But all for bad.
And so did a lot of your friends and people you grew up with,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our class, I say it was a little young, but eventually most of them went in. No, they could. There were 4Fs. There were guys who physically couldn't do it, but more by and large, well, there were 16 million service people, so it's a lot of people. The draft took up to age 40, and then backed off.
Wow. And how many years were you active duty?
Active duty?
Yeah.
Oh, January of 46. I think 2 months short of 3 years. Yeah.
And did you spend your entire time stateside? Were you stateside during the war the whole time?
Oh, no. I thought I mentioned that. No. I did most of the time. I was, because I was training. It took that long to get through the training and waiting for stations and getting sent. So, but no, I say in San Diego, I got on a troop ship, Victory ship, in May of 45. VE Day. Couldn't celebrate because I was on a ship. Everybody on shore was celebrating. So we sailed and zigzagged, and I ended up in a little island called Amaru with this runway. Excuse me. So I spent from May to July, I guess it was, on Amaru, flying raids over Rabaul, a Japanese base that,
Yeah.
Yeah, we had our mission was to keep Raval subdued. It had a lot of troops. It had some heavy fighting there in the early days. Well, it was the base for supplying Guadalcanal, which was a big battle. They were stepping stones to go to invade Australia. Their target was to take over Australia. Fortunately, Marines stopped them at Guadalcanal, and it was a big fight, big battle. And Raval was the supplier of troops and supplies. At,
You want some more water? You need some more water?
maybe I will. Exercising my throat. So anyway, Raval, yeah, that was our mission, flying the PBJs on bombing range of Raval. It was late in the fight, I would say. It was just to continue and maintain it. I think they found 150,000 troops or something there after the war, and some planes and so on. They were tunneled in. I don't think we killed many at our time. We were trying to keep shipping down and nothing getting in or getting out. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Nothing getting in or getting out. And they had some heavy. Our squadrons had lost considerable planes there. I don't know if you ever heard of Pappy Boynton, Marine flyer, Medal of Honor, the Black Sheep. His program, the Black Sheep Squadron. He was shot down by the Japanese and made a prisoner there for a few years. Does this garble you up? Does this bother you? Maybe I could wait. Well, let me just
Finish it. We'll take a minute.
Yeah,
We'll take a break and
yeah. Let's do that.
give your vote.
Yeah, that's speeding and speeding.
Okay.
Yeah, we had 4 PBJ squadrons on Emerald, and then we had some Australians on there that were flying Corsairs, and we were there until July, I believe. I'm of course hazy on some of these exact, but I think it was July. We moved up to the Philippines, and they were getting serious about the invasion plans, and so we started practicing with rockets, diving down and shooting rockets, and so we were moved up to the Philippines, island of Mindanao, island of Mindanao, town of Malabang, and there was a base there for us, runway, and so we moved up there and established ourselves, and we're given maps on where we would go for our part in the invasion, which would be southern islands, and I'm not sure where we would be based because I think we were a little far from Japan and the Philippines, but maybe Okinawa, because that's where there was a big battle going there to take that, and that would be close enough to fly. And so while we were getting ready, the word came in about the atomic bombs, and eventually the end of the war, which was a relief, really. The invasion was scheduled for November, and they expected a large loss of life. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Is there a window open back there?
I'm sorry.
Can you close?
Is there a window open?
No, that's all right.
Okay. I'm just trying
Just
to think.
my throat gets tired, I think.
Well, I'm just thinking there's somebody that's weed whacking out there, and I think our camera might be able to pick that up. with the audio, it might be distracting when you play
Oh.
it back. I just wanted to see if there's any way that we could try and tone it down. But if not,
If you want a window open, do you?
oh no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were trying to close any that were.
Hmm. No, I don't have it now with the air conditioning.
Okay.
Anyway, we moved up to Mindanao, and we started hearing about the atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and we were surprised, had no clue, and but we were relieved that the invasion was called off, because the estimates and the loss of life were tremendous. At least 1 million of our allies, and how many millions of Japanese. Expected it, to the fight to the death type of attitude there. And so it was a relief. And I think Truman did the right thing by approving it. A lot of loss of life, but there has been. We had been bombing Japan. Tokyo was half gone. Excuse me, half gone from our bombings, and like 150,000 people there lost. So I think it was a blessing. Unfortunately, it's a way of war now. It's become ending, and other countries have it or could get it. So it's the good and the bad of it, I guess. So we were there celebrating in August, and packed up, went back to Hawaii, stayed there for a while, and then headed to the mainland. And then I guess I got home for Christmas again. That was a miracle. And put on reserve status in January.
Can you talk a little bit about, or elaborate a little bit more about the air raids they would go on? How many planes would?
Well, I got to go by memory, which I won't be exact. I would say for squadron, as I said, there were 4 squadrons, and so it could be planes from each. And I'm thinking of the formation of 6, 9, but that was one formation. It could be more. We carried bomb loads, 500 or 1,000. But we flew every day. Excuse me. Some flew every day. Not each one of us. Day and evening. I think it was. It's a little hard to remember exactly. And we was usually on the morning run. Bomb above 10,000 feet.
You said you'd have about 1,000 bombs on board?
No. We had 1,000 pounders and 500 pounders. So there'd probably be a half a dozen, 1,000, and a little more, 500. Yeah.
And were you piloting the plane at this time?
We took turns. There were no co-pilots in the Marine Corps. You either were a pilot or you didn't fly. So one mission we might be a pilot, another mission you might be a co-pilot. So I was co-piloting for our CEO of the whole MAG group, Colonel. He's a character. he wouldn't let me touch anything. I just sat back there, and but I don't know how I got with him. But I was co-pilot for him. But pilot, co-pilot, yeah.
And how many air raids would you say you went on?
I can't remember exactly. I had to have so many to get a air medal, and then I got 2 air medals. I almost got the Flying Cross, but I didn't. And I'm not sure. I would say 20, somewhere around 20, I guess. Because I was only there, we only flew them from May to July. But maybe more than that. I really don't remember. But you didn't fly every day, so.
And I want to ask you, about the letters writing home, how you kept in contact with Joanne. Could we bring the letters in and
Sure.
sort of stack them on the table here while we talk about them?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. You
Better grab those.
check the sensor.
Certainly. Yeah.
We lost a plane load of guys on their way home. And went down. Take a month of Sundays to read all this, wouldn't it?
What happened with the plane?
I don't know whether, can't imagine it ran out of gas, just engine failure. I've never heard a good report on what they found or when they found it. But there were 9 on board, and we skipped island to island going back to Hawaii, and hit several islands, Midway and Wake and Guam, and so I think it was, I'm not sure just where it went. Too long ago. But yeah, guys. Had a interesting run-in with a guy named Ted Pruitt. Lyon has a air museum out by John Wayne Airport, and they have some nice planes. And one of them's a B-25, because General Lyons flew one of those during the war. They announced, I get emails from them on their programs. They announced they were going to have a B-25 day, and highlight that about it. And anybody that wants to climb aboard and see the cockpit could do so. So I got my son to take me down, and we went and met this docent down there, dressed in his docent uniform, and it introduced. His name was Ted Pruitt, and we started talking about where we were, and we flew PBJs. We were standing by this B-25, and the Navy called them PBJs. So we started talking about it, and I said, "Yeah, I was on Emerald. So was I. I was in Squadron 443. So was I." But I kind of remember the name, but I think he was a first lieutenant and I was a second, so he outranked me. So I didn't remember him too much, but he had quite a history. Good man, and so I thought, well, I'd like to get up and see what the cockpit looked like with it. And I tried, but I couldn't do it. There's a ladder that you straight up that you have to get up there to reach your leg in there and then climb up. I didn't have enough strength to do it, and so I gave up. And forget the day that it was nothing to it. Just climb up or down, But that's what happens when you get old.
Okay. Do you mind sort of explaining what these are and
Well, it looks like they're go all the way back, because my first time away from her, I guess when I went to Ypsilanti, Michigan Normal College for my fall of 42, where I was there for about 6 months. And so it looks like I wrote some letters from there. And then the next would have been Helena, Montana, and rode from there, and I had her picture there, and then St. Mary's College and Pasco, Washington. They're all letters from all of those, and St. Mary's College in Corpus Christi, and then the overseas letters. So she just, I tell you, she saved them all. This one's St. Mary's College. Walking in, I guess I was the first in line, and it was dark, couldn't see, so I just felt like, I better not keep going. I don't know where I'm going. So I stopped, and somebody brought up a light, and there, about not 3 feet from me, was a well going down into the lower levels. I take about 3 more feet, I would have been down in that pit. I tell you, the Lord looked after me so many times that He had a purpose in doing it. But that was another one of them that it was so vivid. There were several others. Yeah, Carroll College. Yeah, I liked it there. I like Carroll. I still am on their mailing list. I'm still considered an alumni. I've contributed to their trust. My wife and I visited there a couple times after we were out, and had a chance to get back. One group, V12s, had a reunion there, and so they invited me. I think the only V5 that was around still, and so I joined them. Joanne went with me, and we visited Helena, and I went into the office to see if they had anything on it. I met this lady who worked in the office, and she was a nice person. My goodness, she was nice. Molly McHugh. And I said, "Yeah, anything on the V5, whatever happened?" So she looked and said, "No." She did have a small cassette tape, some story on it. So I didn't have a chance to listen to it there. She said, "I'll load it to you. You can listen to it in the car." And so I did, and sent it back to her. But they have very little. They had nothing really on the V5 program there. And I know there was a class before us, because they were leaving when we went. But the records, I don't know. The government had to be paying them. But anyway, I was impressed with her. So she passed away. I got from the newsletter, and they set up a trust. So I've been contributing to her trust. Just one of these people that you meet. That now this is Helena. Yeah. It's an old building that we were in. They're modern now, but they have a big, they call it a hall, I guess. It had classes in it, and 4 floors of beds, rooms, and then they had a dining room and a pool. But we were up on the top floor, and it was March, and it was cold. Well, not as cold as it could be, but it was cold. And the cold showers and everything. So it was no picnic, but, we were tough. 18, who cares, right? I'm closing a picture to show you how I look at my new hairdo. I don't know what that. I have my camera now, so I can get some better ones for you. Don't forget, I want to some of you. Don't I look ducky? I must have had a brush cut or something. I guess we fly tomorrow, weather permitting. We're changing to a stick job, so it will probably be a couple of flights before I get used to it. It shouldn't be long before I solo now, I hope. I was going to have my tonsils out Saturday, but I'm going to put it off for a while now. I went to the show tonight with a couple of fellows and saw Casablanca. Oh, it was really good. That was a good movie. It still shows. The first good one I have seen since I've been here. Tomorrow night I am going to stay in and study. Good for me. My father sent me a new jacket today. Is it ever swell? Leather, aviation style. It will really be swell for flying. We didn't have military uniforms. What we had was CCC uniforms. Those were conservation CCC, Conservation Corps, Civilian Conservation Corps, which was a depression program to put people to work out in the field building paths and roads and bridges and everything. So we had those old green uniforms they had. That was our uniform. We were really make do, I'll tell you. So here I can wear my own jacket. I don't have one more sheet of paper left, so I guess I'll have to go downtown tomorrow and get some. I can't see any Air Corps stationery here. Nice gold wings. I can't think of what I wrote on your stationery, so write and tell me what it was, and maybe I can remember when I wrote it. My roommate is the one who makes bed check, so I guess maybe I can finish this. 5 fellows have soloed so far, so I have to hurry and catch up with them. I got a letter from Jimmy today. Thank him for me, will you? I imagine he is anxious to get his call, or is he? I don't know whether I would be or not again, honey. I wouldn't tell you this to anyone but you, but I did cry when I left you. Yeah. It was a long time since I had done that. They are playing Good Night, Sweetheart over the radio, so I guess I had better close off now. Good night, sweetheart. Right, be good. Lots of love, Johnny. Jimmy Gagne, he was a classmate of mine in high school, and had signed up for the V5 program. And I thought he went before me, but I guess not. And he ended up staying, well, he got called up again for Korea, I guess it was, when he after he got out to Korea, and then stayed in and retired. And a heck of a good guy, good fella, real pal. Has passed away since. His brother, Oswald, was in the Navy before Pearl Harbor. He was a pilot, and he was lost at Midway when they were torpedo bombers were going out to drop their torpedoes, and they all got wiped out. He went down with that torpedo group. Unfortunately, there was one ensign that survived, and he was down in the water floating, and they picked him up. Ensign Gay. Yeah. But Jimmy stayed in and retired, and did well. Came back to Monroe and worked as an accountant. Yeah. Lost his wife. Terrible. Janice. So life goes on.
How often would you say that you looks like it was
Well,
pretty frequent?
I would say I didn't miss a week. I might have missed a day or two, but I guess it was on my mind. And of course, I wrote to my folks too. Nobody else. But oh dear, I just went in San Francisco. I guess that was. We must not have come home yet. No, August we wouldn't have. That was after we were married. Airmail yet? What? How else you gonna get them there?
Yeah.
Shipboard, that would take forever. Gee, I had to pay money to send these though, airmail. That was the difference. 6 cents or something. July 31st. Huh. That's about the time we went to Philippines. 6 cents. Airmail. Yeah, otherwise it was free. Quite an experience, guys, I'll tell you.
Wow.
Survived through it. Could have done more. I was certainly no hero, did amazing things. I did my duty as I was ordered, and that's all I could do, and whenever they want me. I had to, I tell you about my accidents. Yeah, I never got shot or just shot down or anything like that. But fortunately, over water, you hope you don't lose your engines or something. You get down and then you don't know what happens. Like the poor guy in Unbroken. But in Mindanao, we were flying around. We weren't doing any bombing, or we were waiting for the invasion before, and then afterwards there was no invasion, so we just put in our time till we got sent home. But I had 2 accidents. One was I was taking off and I had a tire blowout, and fortunately I really wasn't off the ground or in the air, so I could stop. I had to stop. It spun me around and broke a prop and bent the wing, but I got it stopped. I got the engines off. That was the main thing. Kill the engines and draw back on the controls, and so we got it stopped. But that was it, and ended that flight kind of quick. But we got checked out in the medics, and the doctor gave us a little taste of medical brandy. But I tell you, it's almost worth it. The other was a little more disastrous. I was flying the co-pilot seat, and we were coming back. The Philippines. We were coming back, and it was getting dark. It was pretty dark, and I was flying co-pilot seat, and we were kind of over the hill. There's some high points, and we were flying over. So we were coming over those. I looked in the back to check the gas, the fuel. Looked back. I turned back, and whap! Something smacked me in the face, and knocked me out. Something broke through the cockpit on my side. Fortunately, was not on the whole thing. And a bird, eagle, some big bird, because we found out it hit the crossbar on the cockpit and bent that in, smashed the cockpit, all the plexiglass and everything, and as I say, it knocked me out, covered me with blood and plexiglass. So I don't remember anymore, and I have to give credit to the guy that flew it and landed it at our base, because here was a 180-mile wind coming in my side of the cockpit, and he flew it back and got us down, took me into the medicals, howled me out of there. I couldn't do anything, and the doctor checked me over and everything, and he said, well, that blood is the birds, not yours. So he said, my guy that was with me, take him over to the shower and wash him off. So it was impact type of thing, but nothing disastrous. But that was a bad experience. I say it could have been worse. Flying that plane, I don't know how he did it with 180 mile wind or 200 mile wind coming in there. Maybe he cut back in speed, but I wasn't there to watch. So those were the two disasters for me. Not too bad.
Yeah. And while you're over in the Asiatic, did you have any interaction with ground troops or any other
Well,
soldiers?
I can remember at Eden, there was a several, or at least one or more, I don't know how many, PT boats with the Navy crew, and they were stationed there on Albemarle Sound, which we were on. So I got to know one of the guys pretty well, and I got to know a nurse, nice nurse from Brooklyn. That was before I got married. Well, we had ground crew, of course, and crew that went on our flights. Instructors, we had listed instructors and signaling and radio and Morse code. Not a gal too, and so mostly with other cadets, of course, we mixed up pretty well. And
Good. And did you ever parachute? Did you ever jump out of the plane?
never did. No, sir. I've never had to. I would have. I carried one. We did a practice, and I know it's one of the bases where we got up in the tower, and they had a parachute sprung out, and you jumped, and you know, like you coming down. It's how you grab the chain and everything. So fortunately, I didn't have to. PBJ was not an easy plane to get out of to jump. I just mentioned this ladder that goes down where you get out and climb down, and then you make sure you hold the ladder long enough so you get out, because it had a habit of flipping back on you. And so no, I didn't have to do that or swim in the ocean, or I was fortunate. I was blessed. Those are good stories, but you know, if you survive.
Well, I didn't know if you guys would train for that sort of.
Yeah, we were trained for it,
Yeah.
and how to do it and put it on. And I say you jump and you hold onto the strap. You don't hold on the ring because there's too much tendency to jerk it as you jump, and you don't want that to happen. So you wait, count to about 5 or 6 seconds, and then you reach down and pull the ring. I still have my Mae West, you know, my life preserver. You want to see it?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Here, I'll put these back in. Yeah.
You know, anytime you were flying over water, of course, you had to wear a Mae West.
Flying, and then your time in the Pacific, and when you were there, when you were stationed in the Pacific, were you aware of what was happening in Europe at the time? Or were you guys?
Yeah, no, I think we had sources there to keep us up. Yeah, we had radios. I think we had some broadcasters and correspondents that we must have. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, we knew what was progressing in France, Germany, and I'm sure they had the invasion, Normandy. You know, I don't remember any papers. But yeah, I would say we had to be updated on it.
So now we're fast forward to the end of the war. Do you remember where you were when you heard news of the bomb, the first bomb being dropped, and sort of talk about?
Yeah, we were still on Amaru, running our missions. Yeah. And we didn't know anything about it as far as surprise and that it was serious. Because they had bombing raids over Tokyo and Japan ongoing. The B-29s were doing a lot of heavy bombing. So we didn't know exactly what an atomic bomb was. Not many people did.
Did you feel? Was there a feeling that the war was close to being over? I know Germany had surrendered at that point.
Right. Yeah, I think we felt that we were on the move. We were closing in, and eventually it would happen. But we still had a tough battle ahead, because even Okinawa was a tough fight. A lot of loss and very expensive in lives. So we knew that invading Japan would be tough. Yeah, very tough.
And what was your feeling after the war had ended? Was there relief? Was there?
Oh yeah, sure. We were, we accomplished the goal. It wasn't necessary to continue fighting for the sake of fighting, and so it was a very big relief, and meant that we could go home, families again, get things back to normal maybe eventually.
And how long after the war ended was it until you returned home?
Well, the war ended in August, and the time I got home was either November or December. Yeah.
Sure. Your wife was happy to see you?
I think so, yes. I think she was, and my family and sister, sure. Yeah, she was glad. We were glad to be together again. And we were a couple of young lovebirds, Yeah. Had our songs to sing. Johnny Mercer. Yeah, it was fun getting back and be free and making plans.
When did you come out to California?
You in the service or after the service, you mean?
To move, yeah, to live.
I got to think back, because my folks had moved out. First time I came out was with Kaiser. I worked for them in Willow Run, Michigan, and their subsidiary Chase Aircraft. So when Willow Run was sold to General Motors, and they closed out all the Kaiser activity, we moved out in 54, I think it was, that we moved out with them. Yeah, that was the first trip. We lived in Albany for a couple years and went back to Monroe. And then my last time coming to California was 1979 with General Electric. And again, it was a job transfer.
So that leads me to my next question. What did you do for work after the war?
Well, I did a couple of jobs. I went back to Penny's and worked a little bit, and then I got a job on a railroad, New York Central. I heard they were making big money, so I got a job over in Toledo in the what do they call that? Where they do the I'm sorry.
Need a refill? Let me get a.
Yeah, won't hurt. A little lubrication.
Yep.
Certainly.
Cool.
Yeah, I do that too. When it's full, it wants to come out. It's only water. Thank you.
Yep.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean it up.
What do they call that? Again, I'm missing a name, but it was where they join up cars and trains and unload and all that. In Toledo. I got a job and I was put on a I think my mind's getting clogged up. It was a small train engine that moved the cars around. And I was a fireman. I was shoveling coal. And let's see, I worked at Monroe. I got different jobs. I was floating around. I think I worked a little while at Monroe Auto Equipment. But I was a fill-in until the fall of '46, which between the time I got home in January and went back to college. Went back to IPSI again, and signed up. We were married. My wife came, and she worked as a secretary in the school office, and so I was working along. I worked a little harder now. The thing is stake. Until one semester, I went in to sign up in my classes, and they were all full. There was no room for me in any of the classes I selected. Well, so I packed up my gear and went over to Ann Arbor to see if I could get into Michigan. And sure enough, I got in line, I went in, I got into business school. I got credit for a lot of the courses I took in the Marine Corps and the Navy. Tuition was $75 a semester, which the Navy, the Marines, the government paid. It was under the GI Bill, which was a great thing. It really was. Sent a lot of guys back to college and provided for them. And we got an allowance for living for a wife and so on. So, yeah, I started at Michigan and went into the business school and took some courses, and pretty soon they built a new business school, and I got into that. And so finished out there, graduated in the spring of '49. I was glad I did. I think I was led from IPSI over to Ann Arbor, because it's been wonderful since. I've been had loyalty and everything. Watched their sports, and they have an alumni association, and so it's been a good thing. Got a job through them. We lived in Willow Run Village, which was a housing development built for the workers at the bomber plant. The Willow Run had been B-24 bomber plant run by Ford during the war, providing bombers. And Kaiser bought it and started building cars. And then they got a contract for Fairchild C-119 aircraft, so they got in the aircraft business. Joined with Chase Aircraft, and going great. I got to tell you a version of it. Mr. Kaiser was a great Democrat supporter, JDR and Harry Truman, you know. So Fairchild didn't like it, but he won a subcontract to build more C-119s, which Fairchild was building. And Democrats were in office, that was fine. When Eisenhower won and the Republicans got in there, and Forrestal was the Secretary of Defense or Army, whatever they called it at the time, Kaiser lost his contract. Fairchild, you know, convinced him that, so they were still trying to build cars, but not overly successful. Competition with GM and Ford and Chrysler was a lot too much. So General Motors burned down their transmission plant in the area. So he sold the bomber plant to General Motors to build a new transmission plant, and moved to the West Coast, which Kaiser was predominantly a West Coast organization. Steel, cement, built the Hoover Dam, helped build it, and was in somewhat of the aircraft industry. So Chase moved out there, and we tried to start a plant, and it didn't work either. Or what was I talking about?
Well,
I get off on tangents, you know.
Yeah, it happens.
I'm telling you my life story, whether you want it or not.
That's what we're here for.
But so that was an experience, just moving out and living in Albany, and my kids were little. I had two kids by then, and it was a good experience. That we knew it wouldn't last. For one thing, my wife was not happy out there. She lost her mother earlier. She had her father and grandmother back in Monroe, and she was a family woman. She really loved her family, and she was homesick. So after it rained for about 30 days, we packed up and went back to Monroe while I looked for a job. And I had sent out some resumes, and one of them was to General Electric. So I got a call from Cleveland, GE, the lamp division, come down for an interview. So I did, and I got hired, and that started a career. Yeah, that was interesting.
Tell me a bit about your children and raising them. And
Well, I was blessed. I had a good wife, a mother. Oh, she was a wonderful mother. She took care of them like everything. I had a boy, girl. They were split over time. The first boy is 48. The next was a daughter in 52. And another son in 57. And another daughter, or final daughter, in 60. So we had them a little apart so we could raise them a little bit and provide for them. And it was wonderful. We lived, we went from Monroe to Cleveland, bought a home there, and then moved to Willoughby to change to plants. Then eventually went to Youngstown lamp plant, and then I got a job out in California with the major appliance division, and it was all in what we called employee relations, personnel. Today they call it human resources. I was always in that. I started there with Kaiser a job from GE sent me out there for an interview. And so I was always in that in one thing or another, whether it was personnel or employment or labor relations or whatever happened, end of it. All now, we called it employee and community relations because you dealt with the community too. It was interesting. I guess I was fairly well suited for it. And met a lot of good people and hired a lot of people, fired a few. So the tour in LA, I started out in Vernon. They had the sales and service and warehouse there in Vernon. So I was there, employee relations. Then they moved down to Orange, which was great for travel commuting. Sales and service. The company kept changing. The business kept changing. I had an interesting job in LA. I was sort of the traveling employee relations guy. I traveled to Denver and Las Vegas and Phoenix and San Diego and the LA office. So I kind of traveled around doing my thing with them. Finally, in '86, I guess it was, they were offering some, what do they call it, golden handshakes, golden parachutes or something, for those who wanted to retire. Package deal, so much for every year of service. And so I said, how about me? And, oh no. And then they went up to somebody and said, well, all right, if he wants to. So that's when I retired, '86. And I was glad, I'd had enough. Labor relations is not a fun job, dealing with grievances and negotiations, and I just felt like I had enough. And so I left and retired. I worked at Disneyland for a while. That was fun.
What'd you do there?
Security. Yeah, that was good.
Did you get to meet Mickey?
Pardon?
Did you get to meet Mickey?
Did I get what?
To meet Mickey.
Oh yeah, with his head off. When you go backstage and you go to the restaurant, you see all of them, of course. Oh yeah, the characters and people. Worked with a nice group.
I heard there's a secret club or an exclusive club or.
Club 33.
Is that it?
Oh yeah, I got to go there a few times. GE had a membership, so that was when I was still working. Yeah, I could go, make an appointment. Yeah, I had to get clearance from somebody, and invite. Let's see. At one time, I took my sister, where she's out visiting, and part of our family. And we went. And you get to go to the park. You get the park for the day or whatever, and it's treat you well, feed you, and so that was one time. And then Becky had a birthday. Oh, I tell you, the odd thing that happened when my sister was there. She's Michigan State University, for Lansing. The manager was a graduate of Michigan State. It's coincidental. My daughter Becky, she turned a certain age. What would it have been? 40? Let's see, 52. No, it wouldn't have been 40. 30? I don't know. Whatever. It was her birthday coming up, so we took a group of the family, the kids, and we went to Club 33. And I think one other time, when I was still working. We had get-togethers with other employee relations people in the division and different plants and around, and we'd have meetings in different places. And so I got a reservation at Club 33 for us, so we met there. And so I think those are the 3 times I was able to visit there. Yeah, good. I don't know if, I doubt if GE still has membership. They don't have anything left in the area. So, and I don't know anybody left anyway, so.
What was Club 33? Was it
Club 33 was an organization started when Disneyland started. I guess there was 33 clubs who paid a fee, and they were major companies and contributors and so on. It was upstairs. You take an elevator. Very nice. Good food. Order what you want. And it didn't cost you anything because the company paid for it. But I don't know who all belonged. But I think there were 33 members, and that's what it got. I don't know what the deal is today. Apparently it's changed a little bit. What did I read about it? Something. Whether you can no longer join, I don't know what it is, but as everything changes, it changed. So. But it was something Walt started, or his company started. Yeah, nice. Nice, you go in, you get a pass to the park and everything. Had a lot of fun at Disneyland over the years. First time we went there was in August of '55. They opened in July of '55, and we went there in August with the 2 kids they had. And went there a lot of times. When they had coupon books instead of passes again. You had tickets, tear off a ticket when you went on a ride. And you had ABC, so that small rides, the little kiddie rides were maybe A, and then you had B, the upgrade.
Okay, speeding and speeding.
Okay. So this one is, if there's any advice that you would give to current or future generations, what would that be?
Oh, well, I guess I would, what I've learned and what I would like to do and try to do is love and serve Jesus, my family, my country, and others. And just what Jesus teaches us to do. So they're all important, and so I love them, and I try to serve them. That's it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Hello.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Thanks for a second.